All right. Good evening, everyone. Let me firstly sort of begin by saying that the presentation I did last time when I was doing the explainer with you looked like one was at home ground. You were like, the law person explaining the judgment. Today, I am somebody who's coming very, very nervous and very scared, very honestly, because I am doing something with you in unfamiliar terrain. The only thing which gives me confidence in doing this is that the I know I'm amongst friends, and amongst friends you can make mistakes. Amongst friends you can go on a limb, you can make an effort. So what I am presenting today is largely the best judgment one could make of what the way forward is. I also want to make it clear that this is only a draft, a plan, an option. The idea of this meeting is that this plan, this draft, this option will be debated and discussed till we come to that which all of us can live with and will be the best way for us to move forward. I think it's one of the other things which all of us felt at the end of the Thursday meeting was a great sense of positivity and a little bit of a high. I think it's a high that it's that kind of adrenal flowing which I think we all require when we want to do something meaningful. So it's on the strength of that positivity and on the best judgment that one could make in talking with lots of friends, I have come to this presentation. You might think that I'm making too many qualifying noises, but I felt it was important to stress on the spirit with which this is being done. The text, we can always negotiate. The text, one can always plus minus. That's not the important thing. But it is the substance of what we want to do which is important. So I was asked, though we have got the recording and the recording has been shared pretty widely, I was still asked by Poonam, and this is, what I'm going to be doing, the quick coverage of the entire presentation. I'm going to recap with the explainer. I'm going to talk about the principles with which we should be doing, what should inform our way forward, what is the first phase, what is the follow-up phase, suggested methodology, and how do we connect with the government. This is what I will be dealing with in this entire presentation. It's just a quick recap of that. And this was the slide I was starting to explain, that I was asked, especially by Poonam, that it will be helpful if I were to do a kind of a recap. I am not doing a recap, but what I am putting out here is to sort of say what was the essence of what we reached at the end of that day's exercise. Also, it is like very clearly stating what is it that we need to be doing in this way forward. What is the most critical thing that we just have to do, which is tied up with this 3 months thing that we have on us. This is for us to identify those standards without fulfilling which a completion certificate should not be given, or a fine should be imposed and continue to be imposed till compliance is obtained. The idea somewhere is that we have to get across that message that the time for negotiation and persuasion is over, and we are seeking inflexible obedience of the obligations that are there in relation to accessibility, so that the right to accessibility can be fully realized. This is exactly the essence of what the Supreme Court judgment is about. And this is the task that we are, we have set for ourselves, and we have to work out a way of reaching it. The reason why I have focused on this, and the explainer tells you how the court reached here. The explainer also tells you exactly what's the reasoning that has been adopted. But at the end of the day, this is what we are required to do. We have to find out what are those standards on which we are, when we are saying non-negotiable or when we are saying mandatory and compulsory, we are also saying that this is the kind of thing, if you don't do, You are inviting sanctions. You're inviting whether it is a punishment or a fine, or whether it is that your work comes to a standstill, that we will go and get an injunction and a total embargo on what you're doing. That's what we are required to settle. This is the task we have to undertake. It's very important for us also to fully understand it. As I go further, I am going to sort of talk in terms of how we need to understand non-negotiable, because I think in our previous session, one of the speakers, one of the interveners, I don't want to name her incorrectly, so I'm not naming, but I have a very clear memory of what she was saying. She was saying that you can never have what may be non-negotiable for me may not be non-negotiable for the next person. And but there is a technical way of understanding non-negotiable. So I will want to sort of dwell a little bit on it for reflection and for us to think further on that count. Also as one of those principles which has to guide what we are going to do. Having done this explainer, I'm coming to what principles should inform our exercise. And I'm talking about the principles before I talk about the methodology, before I talk in terms of what tasks we have to undertake, because it's a defined kind of, not just in law, but in the manner in which one has to make choices. That when you have to choose between alternative rules and you can't make out which rule is the applicable rule, if you have to make choices between two courses of action, then it's the principles which ultimately decide for you. Remember, Gandhi had that thing about that, what he called the talisman, and saying if you can't decide, then you look at the most deprived person. And that which will make things better for that deprived person is the choice you need to make. So it's in that spirit that these principles have been put here. Because evidently, when we are negotiating and when we are, making those rules, at several points, we will have to decide what is it that we feel that you just have to do right now or else, and what is it that we can sort of be a little bit more flexible about. And I think it's with that spirit that I have put down these principles. The first one I'm saying is it has to be that whatever rules we make, this floor that we are creating has to be an inclusive one. It is an exercise of creating a floor for all disabilities. We can't be saying, okay, let's do it for these disabilities, let's do it straight away, and the rest can wait, and subsequently you will come. That's not the spirit in which we are going to do this exercise. So we're going to actually articulate and ask everybody that, okay, what is it that at a minimum you will require? So that's the first principle I'm saying, that it will have to be inclusion. So when we decide between keeping something and not keeping something, then inclusion will become a very major testing principle. The other thing that I'm talking in terms of is that the way we make these standards. See, that's the biggest advantage of the sector taking things in hand and doing it is, for me at the end of the day, it's like you have to work out. Of course, it has to be an outcome-oriented way of, to say that the best thing maybe, to say that the best kind of situation we may have is that we have a tactile map and we touch it, or we have an audio loop or whatever. The highest and the best technology, and that. But if you know that that's not what is available in your country, or that's not what maybe if you were to put it into your standards also, you may not be able to ultimately at the end of the day obtain it. You need to work out that, all right, if their website was to communicate or to give us a digital map, and every time an entrance is not working, there is an immediate kind of information that this particular entrance is not working, that one is working. So we need to create standards which are outcome oriented, which ensure that at the end of the day, you are making things accessible for me. Not that I am wanting that you create, I insist that you have a lift, and then 3/4 of the time the lift is not working. That doesn't work.
Just a second, I'm sorry, sign language interpreter. Can we request others to please mute their mics?
Suhas, can you mute yourself? Suhas?
Yeah. If I just mute everybody's mic.
And Professor, one more request. I think on the chat, people said if English, mix of English.
Oh, I'm so sorry. मैं भूल गई. माफी चाहती हूँ। मैं कल भी मेरे को एक बारी रिवीजन करनी पड़ गई थी क्योंकि मैं धड़ाधड़ अंग्रेजी में शुरू हो गई थी और मैं भूल गई। आई एम सो सॉरी। हालांकि हमने कल डिसाइड किया था कि हम खिचड़ी में बात करेंगे, लेकिन वही है ना, मतलब थोड़ा सा डिफॉल्ट मोड फॉर्चुनेटली और अनफॉर्चुनेटली अंग्रेजी है। हालांकि मैं रोज अपनी रोजमर्रा भाषा में बिल्कुल अंग्रेजी इतनी नहीं बोलती हूँ, लेकिन जैसे ही वो प्रेजेंटेशन सामने आता है ना, दिमाग थोड़ा खिसक जाता है। एनीवे, मैं जो मैंने पहले वाले उसमें कहा था वो सिर्फ इतना ही कहा था कि हमने ये तय करना है आपस में मिलजुल के कि हम क्या वो चीज है जो कि अगर मानी नहीं गई तो उसके उसके कॉन्सिक्वेंस की वो हम काम आगे नहीं बढ़ने देंगे या उस पर फाइन लगवाएंगे ही। मतलब हम सब लोगों को एक दफा समझा देंगे कि देखिए जो वो टाइम था ना बातचीत का, हम आपको प्यार मोहब्बत से समझा रहे थे, वो चला गया है और हम कुछ चीजें ऐसी हैं जिस पर कोई प्यार मोहब्बत नहीं है, वो मतलब अगर हमें डंडे के जोर पे करवाना पड़ेगा तो हम करवाएंगे। पहली वाली स्लाइड में तकरीबन मैं सिर्फ यही बात कह रही थी। इस वाली स्लाइड में मैंने वो बातचीत शुरू कर दी कि हाँ साहब, क्या वो प्रिंसिपल्स हैं व्हेन वी हैव टू चूज बिटवीन, हमें दो चीजों के बीच में अगर वी हैव टू मेक अ चॉइस तो हम कैसे करेंगे। तो ये वो प्रिंसिपल है। पहला प्रिंसिपल मैंने कहा है कि वो इंक्लूजन का, कि हाँ जी सबको शामिल करके, सबका सबका वो क्या हो, सबका साथ सबका विकास। आई एम नॉट इवन श्योर कौन सी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी का स्लोगन है, बट जो भी, लेकिन कहीं पर वो एक बहुत जरूरी सी बात है कि हाँ हम सबको साथ में साझा करके और थिंकिंग अबाउट एवरीबडी एल्स, एवरीबडी, all persons with disabilities is one important part, and in that, in all persons, the whole question of चाहे वो इंटरसेक्शनलिटी है, चाहे वो रीजनल इंक्लूजन है, चाहे आई मीन एवरी चाहे वो क्लास इंक्लूजन है, चाहे कास्ट इंक्लूजन है, वॉट एवर अदर फैक्टर्स जिससे कि हम मतलब लोग छूट जाते हैं, रह जाते हैं, उनको हम ध्यान में रखकर वी विल डू द एक्सरसाइज। दूसरी चीज आई वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट वाज द होल क्वेश्चन ऑफ आउटकम ओरिएंटेड, कि हाँ इस बात का ध्यान रख के करना है कि जो भी चीज, जो भी स्टैंडर्ड हम बनाएं वो इस किस्म का हो कि उसका नेट रिजल्ट है, जो आखिर में रिजल्ट वो है, वो इंक्लूजन हो। हमको मतलब ये नहीं चाहिए कि हमें वेस्ट की सबसे हाईएस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी लेकर आनी है, हमको ये चाहिए कि जो भी हम लेकर आए वो ऐसा हो जो हमारे सर्कमस्टांसेस में, इन आवर कंट्री, इन आवर सिचुएशन, इट एक्चुअली ऑपरेट्स so that it results in inclusion. And it's I think one of my professors used to say that, especially for a lot of legal education reform के बारे में वो कई बार कहते थे कि लोग वहां से शुरू होते हैं जहां पे पहुंचना चाहते हैं, कि हाँ हमको मतलब लेवल 5 पे पहुंचना है, लेकिन ये याद नहीं रखते कि आज कहाँ हो। So it is important that you will reach level 5 only if you first put your foot firmly on ground. तो अगर आज -0 पर हैं तो your standards have to work in the manner that you recognize the fact. आप इस बात को बिल्कुल याद रखें कि आज की तारीख में तो आप ग्राउंड लेवल पे भी नहीं हो, आपको ग्राउंड लेवल पर आना है। तो जो भी हम स्टैंडर्ड्स बनाए वो इस सच्चाई को, we recognize this truth that where are we, it's grounded in the present, it's not grounded in the future and saying that's where we want to reach. We will reach, हम वहां पहुंचेंगे जरूर, लेकिन वहां पहुंचने के लिए हमारे जो पांव हैं वो बहुत अपने फर्मली जमीन पर होने चाहिए। अगर वो जमीन पर टिके हुए नहीं हुए तो फिर गिरने का चांस ज्यादा है, चढ़ने का और चलने का चांस कम है। आखिर चीज हम ये चाह रहे हैं कि इसीलिए ये सब चीजें कनेक्टेड हैं कहीं पर। देखिए हाँ, ये वाली एक्सरसाइज में बहुत सारा अपने कॉलीग्स को कहती हूँ कि वो टाइम तय करेंगे कि मीटिंग कितने बजे शुरू होगी। मीटिंग शुरू होनी है 5:30 बजे, लेकिन हम टाइम 5 बजे का देंगे, क्योंकि वैसे भी लोग 5:30 तक ही आएंगे। इसलिए तो मेरी ये मानना उल्टा है। मेरा है कि जिस वक्त आप चाहते हैं कि आपकी मीटिंग शुरू हो, आप वही टाइम दीजिए, और कोई भी ना आए हो या 5 लोग भी आए हो, आप मीटिंग शुरू कर दीजिए। तो उसी तरह से हमको अपने वही स्टैंडर्ड बनाने हैं जो कि हमें बहुत क्लियर है कि इसमें कोई मतलब कोई भी स्कोप नहीं है, देयर इज नो स्कोप, कोई फेरबदल नहीं हो सकता है। जो हमने वहां लिख दिया वो एक किस्म की कानून में जो हम कंपल्सरी स्टैंडर्ड बना रहे हैं वो पत्थर की लकीर बना रहे हैं। ये सोच के बनाना है, ये नहीं कि अरे इतना कहेंगे तो कम से कम इतना मिल जाएगा। नहीं, हमें जितना चाहिए वही कहेंगे और उसमें फिर हिलेंगे नहीं। इसलिए मैं कह रही हूँ एनफोर्सेबल and shall be enforced. मतलब वो चीज जो जिसमें हम कोई फेरबदल नहीं चाहते हैं, इसको सोच के मतलब हर जना हम जब अपना काम या एक्सरसाइज शुरू करें, इस बात को भूलना नहीं है, क्योंकि कानून तभी चलता है अगर उसमें क्लियरली कहा जाए ये काला है, ये सफेद है, ये करना ही है, ये आपको हम चॉइस देते हैं। हम सोच समझ के करें कि हम कहाँ लोगों को थोड़ा टाइम देना चाहते हैं और what is it that we want them to do right today. Our exercise is to tell people or to bring out a set of standards which we say you have to do today. उसमें हम कोई choice नहीं दे रहे हैं। And these are the 4 principles. ये चारों principles जो हैं, inclusion हमको मतलब हमारा आखिर जो हम चाहते हैं कि हमारा जो ये मकसद है, हमारी जो मंजिल है, उसको ध्यान में रखकर we make our standards. Where we are today, we make our standards on that basis. We don't try to say, okay, oh, if today we compromise. See, एक चीज में और, which I did not say yesterday, but I'm saying now. हमारे rules itself में even today, there is a clear provision कि there can be a revision of the rules on a periodic basis. Similarly, आप ये कर सकते हैं कि आज की तारीख में हम level 1 कर रहे हैं, लेकिन 2 साल के बाद when the level 1 has become universal, तो हम लेवल 2 पे जाएंगे और फिर लेवल 2 को मैंडेटरी करेंगे। हमें 5 तक पहुंचना है, लेकिन एक स्टैगर्ड तरीके से, और हर लेवल जहां पर हम पहुंचे उस वक्त वो लेवल मैंडेटरी हो जाएगी। लेकिन अगर 5 और 1 को इकट्ठा कर देंगे तो वही वाली प्रॉब्लम आज की तारीख में है कि हमें पता ही नहीं है कि 1 क्या है और 5 क्या है। पर अगर हमें मालूम हो, if we know what is 1 and what is 5, then we can work it on that basis. Okay. So I proceed from here to sort of talk about, ये मैंने उस दिन when I was talking about the pointers, उस दिन की presentation के आखिर में मैंने कुछ कहा था कि pointers for the way forward. One of the things which I had said was कि हमारे पास blank slate नहीं है. True, it is कि हमने बहुत सारे norms बनाए हुए, बहुत सारे standards बनाए हैं, lots of people have inputted into the standards. ऐसी बात नहीं है कि वो बिल्कुल एक zero exercise. इतना सारा काम हुआ है और इतनी सारी उसमें implementation भी हो रही है, तो सिर्फ उसमें से कुछ ऐसे norms हैं जिसमें more or less unanimity है, जिनको थोड़ा बहुत आपको फेरबदल करने की जरूरत है, लेकिन ज्यादा नहीं है। हमने जो कोर्ट को रिपोर्ट दी थी, we had sort of asked them, हमने उनसे कहा था कि इस चीज को अगर आप मैंडेटरी डिक्लेयर कर दें तो more or less सेक्टर खुश है इस पे, लेकिन कोर्ट ने they did not take that choice. That is one part of the report which they did not accept, and their thing somewhere was that it is contradictory. ये मतलब दोनों चीजें आप साथ साथ नहीं कह सकते। एक तरफ कह रहे हो कि नहीं सिर्फ गाइडलाइंस हैं और उन गाइडलाइंस को आप रूल्स की शक्ल दीजिए, दूसरी तरफ से आप कह रहे हो इन कुछ गाइडलाइंस को आप हम रूल्स बना दें, हमें क्या मालूम, we don't know. It is better that it's done by the stakeholders, by the government. They've also got CDS involved in the process. उन्होंने उस तरह से किया। तो ये वो है एक नेशनल बिल्डिंग कोड फिजिकल एनवायरनमेंट के लिए, लोगों ने कहा कि हाँ वो ठीक ठाक है। इंडियन रोड्स कांग्रेस गाइडलाइंस, पेवमेंट्स एंड रोड्स, इट इज गुड। गाइडलाइंस फॉर वेबसाइट्स एंड मोबाइल एप्लीकेशंस, low flow buses for within the city travel. अगर आपको हाइड्रोलिक लिफ्ट्स वाली बसेस लेनी है तो पॉइंट टू पॉइंट इंटरसिटी ट्रैवल पे सिर्फ ले सकते हो। कैरेज बाय एयर के लिए ये कहा गया, ये कैरेज बाय एयर ऑफ पर्सन्स विद डिसेबिलिटी एंड रिड्यूस मोबिलिटी 2021, दिस इज फाइन, दैट वी कैन गो विद। नाउ द पॉइंट आई वांट टू मेक फॉर योर कंसिडरेशन इज दिस, कि ये जो है इसमें at least from whatever work we had done, as many people that we had talked with, there was a lot of a unanimity within the sector that this is acceptable. But I am saying is we need to look at this again, to look at it from a principle of inclusion, that what more needs to come in so that it's truly inclusive in all senses of the term, or can this be the first phase? Because if this becomes the first phase, one of the things which ends up happening is this, that you have something, एक पहला ड्राफ्ट आपका ऑफ क्या मैंडेटरी बनना है, क्या कंपल्सरी बनना है, वो बन जाता है। एंड इट इज लाइक जो मतलब देयर वाज वन एप्रीहेंशन कल हुआ था कि जी व्हाट हैपेंस टिल द रूल्स कम, विल यू stop permissions? Will you not give completion certificates? So if your physical environment building code comes in, then it becomes, वो उससे आप guidance ले सकते हैं कि आप किनको दे सकें अगर ये जल्दी आ जाए तो. मतलब this is one possibility. I am not saying हम ये कर ही लें, मैं ये कह रही हूँ कि ये आपके पास पहला ड्राफ्ट एक मौजूद है. This is the first draft that we have available with us, on which we can then think that how we want to tweak and fine tune it to be making it more inclusive, outcome oriented and enforceable. मतलब ये जो 3-4 प्रिंसिपल्स मैंने बोले हैं उनको ध्यान में रखकर ये पहला ड्राफ्ट है जो हम अक्रॉस द बोर्ड सब लोग देख सकते हैं. Because this was the one thing on which I had found a lot when we were making the report. We found a lot of unanimity from several places where people were happy with going along with it. If we have dissatisfactions, it may still be something easier to, उसको मतलब ज्यादा आसान होगा पहले फेज में इसको एड्रेस करना. तो ये मैं फर्स्ट फेज बोल रही हूँ कि अगर हम लोग इसमें मॉरलेस एग्री करते हैं या हफ्ते 10 दिन के काम में इसको ट्वीक किया जा सकता है, तो वी कैन गिव दिस एज द फर्स्ट ऑप्शन टू द मिनिस्ट्री. द लास्ट स्लाइड आई हैव इज हाउ वी एड्रेस एंड डील विद द गवर्नमेंट, बट कीप दिस इन माइंड. ये मैं पहला फेज बोल रही हूँ. और इस चीज को ये दिखे साफ दिख रहा है कि बहुत इक्कत, मतलब इट्स नॉट एन ऑल इंक्लूसिव काइंड ऑफ सेटअप दैट यू हैव, बट इट्स फॉर सम थिंग्स. हमारे पास कुछ चीजें हैं जिसको हम मैंडेटरी स्ट्रेट अवे कर सकते हैं. ओके, नेक्स्ट फेज. इसमें what I am putting forward for your consideration, I have put out 6 sectors, and this is more or less matching with what we have in section 40 of the हमारे जो section 40 RPD Act का जो सेक्शन है उसमें भी यही सेक्टर्स कहीं पे लिखे हैं. असिस्टिव टेक्नोलॉजी एंड डिवाइसेस एक्सप्लिसिट नहीं है, बट हम उसको लेकर आ रहे हैं. सो दिस कुड बी द 6 सेक्टर्स: योर बिल्ट एनवायरनमेंट, ट्रांसपोर्ट इकोसिस्टम, इंफॉर्मेशन कम्युनिकेशन टेक्नोलॉजी, असिस्टिव टेक्नोलॉजी एंड डिवाइसेस, प्रोडक्ट्स एंड सर्विसेज. कि ये है सेक्टर्स जिस पर कि हमको मतलब बनाना है कि हमें मैंडेटरी क्या चाहिए. व्हाट इज इट दैट वी वांट मैंडेटरी देयर. Now, I am saying is that what is when, so this is something on which we need to make. This is unlike, asking for the ports to do their own thing and the hospitals to do their own things and for the rural areas to do their own things. It's to say that built environment, all kinds of built environment, whether it's hospitals or schools or, what kind of built environment in the rural areas, what is it that you have to do in relation to banking system. I mean, it doesn't matter what for office buildings and others. So आप हर किस्म के built environment के वही norms होंगे. That's how you work out, because that doesn't change. What may change is in terms of services. When you are providing this kind of service, how will you sort of like give that service? Similarly, आपका transport ecosystem. तो ये areas हम ये 6 सेक्टर्स और 6 बोल रहे हैं कि ये 6 सेक्टर्स हैं जिसमें हमें we have to work out exactly what we want as mandatory rules. We are in some way, मैं जो ये सजेशन दे रही हूँ, कहीं पर जो इन्होंने जिस स्टाइल से डिवीजन आज की तारीख में रूल 15 में किया उससे थोड़ा फेरबदल कर रहे हैं. लेकिन the big advantage of this is that you have clear regulators for each of them, और उसके मुताबिक then it will work out. We'll discuss this later, but मैं ये 6 in the first instance सिर्फ इतना ही बोल रही हूँ, ये 6 groups. So अब what is the methodology I'm suggesting? In comparison to the other day, I'm hoping कि मेरा presentation आज थोड़ा छोटा हो क्योंकि आज आपस में बातचीत करने की ज्यादा जरूरत है. तो मैं ये suggest कर रही हूँ कि जैसे ये जो 6 sectors हैं उसके साथ में you create 6 groups that we have named. These 6 groups के basis पर हम ये बोले कि हमारे जो mandatory rules हैं इन 6 sectors के लिए आने चाहिए. Here the task of there has to be one big group which picks up for each one. Like you take a built environment group, you can take a transport, your ICT group, you have an aids and appliances group, you have a services group, and you have a products group. And then the concern, हर एक group में you feed in the concern of every disability, and also like so you feed that concern into that big group. We can do it like by creating subgroups. When we made the law, that's what we had done. That we had, like, say, a large group, and then the large group created subgroups which fed in. So you could have either a disability specific group और लाइक जस्ट टू कंटिन्यू विद द सेम एग्जांपल, चाहे तो वो डिसेबिलिटी स्पेसिफिक ग्रुप हो जाए, चाहे वो बड़े ग्रुप में आप ये कर सकते हैं कि एक सेट ऑफ लोग देख रहे हैं कि भी स्कूल्स में एक्सेसिबिलिटी कैसी लाई जाएगी। आप बिल्ट एनवायरमेंट में ही अंदर हैं, लेकिन आप स्कूल्स हैं, फिर स्कूल्स में आप आगे फिर इम्पेयरमेंट्स वाइज करो, तो आप इस तरह से वो, पर बड़ा वाला चीज रहेगा, उसी के बीच में आप अंदर दूसरे डब्बे डाल रहे हैं। जैसे एक बड़ा डब्बा है, उसमें एक दूसरा डब्बा है कि हाँ जी साहब, you're talking about different kinds of built environment. फिर उसमें आप ये कि हर एक built environment में अगर आपको, if you have to talk in terms of a wheelchair user, तो आप क्या करेंगे? अगर if you talk about a blind person, तो आप क्या करेंगे? If you're talking about a hearing impaired person, या if you're talking about developmental disabilities or your people, with न्यूरोडाइवर्सिटी, उनको अगर आपको बिल्ट एनवायरनमेंट में एक्सेस देना है तो आपको क्या चीज लानी पड़ेगी। तो मैं ये बोल रही हूँ कि बड़ा डब्बे में फिर आप ये दूसरी चीजें अंदर लाइए। तो दिस कैन बी डन इन, ये मतलब वो बिग डिसीजन है। अब इसको जो बड़ा वाला डब्बा है, वी नीड ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, इंडिविजुअल हु विल हेल्प इट, और फिर वो मतलब उसको ऑर्गेनाइज करें कि भी इसमें छोटे ग्रुप्स कौन से आ रहे हैं, who will take charge of that, and the entire thing, who helms it, who gets into it, ये हमको मेरे मुताबिक we have to do it by एक कंसेंसस। मैं इस तरह से कह रही हूँ कि कुछ हम कह सकते हैं, मेरा ये विचार है, आप लोगों के और आइडियाज हो सकते हैं, कि हम एक तो ये मांगे लोगों से कि कौन जना वॉलंटियर करना चाहता है कि जी मैं इस ग्रुप में ये काम मैं कर सकता हूँ, या ये ग्रुप, हम इस पूरे ग्रुप को, हमारे पास इतनी क्षमता, इतना टाइम और इतनी एक्सपर्टीज है कि हम इसको हेल्प कर सकते हैं। और इसको फिर हम आपस में बातचीत करके ये सेटल कर ले कि हाँ ये लोग बेस्ट सूटेड हैं और सब लोग इस पे अग्रीड हैं और उन्होंने वो जिम्मेवारी ली है। ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स दैट दे आर अज्यूमिंग रिस्पांसिबिलिटी, दे पोजेस द एक्सपर्टीज एंड दे आर वॉलंटियरिंग। बिकॉज सी, I think Pawan Muntha is very, very angry with me, and I understand his frustration and anger. मुझे समझ में आता है, उनको लग रहा है कि वो मुझसे आजकल कट्टी करके बैठे हुए हैं, बट ठीक है, कोई बात नहीं, दोस्तों में अब्बा कट्टी चलती रहती है, इतनी बड़ी बात नहीं है, किसी ना किसी वक्त तो दोस्ती होनी है, कि कोई दोस्ती तो जाती नहीं। राजीव राठौरी से पूछ लीजिए, मैं उनसे कितना सारा झगड़ा करती हूँ, फिर थोड़े दिन के बाद हमारी दोस्ती हो जाती है। आई एम सेइंग इट वेरी ओपनली कि जो लोग भी मेरे साथ काम कर चुके हैं उन्हें मालूम है कि मेरे लिए तो जिससे मोहब्बत होती है उसी से झगड़ा किया जाता है। जिसके साथ मोहब्बत नहीं, जिसके साथ आपको कुछ लेना देना नहीं, उसके साथ क्या झगड़ा करोगे? उसको क्या फर्क पड़ता है कि आप नाराज हो कि खुश हो? जिसको फर्क पड़ता है कि आप नाराज हो खुश हो, आप उसी से झगड़ा करते हो। यू ओनली फाइट विद पीपल विद होम यू आर फ्रेंड्स। So I am saying this like because when you create this entire setup and you take on these responsibilities, the reason I am making this point is all of us, सब के सब, ये थोड़ी है कि हमारे पास सिर्फ डिसेबिलिटी लॉ रिफॉर्म का ही काम है, हमारे पास अपनी जिंदगियां हैं, we have other work to do. And we are doing work which at one level maybe is not our work. It's the work of the state or it's work of the government. But we also know this कि अगर हमने उन पे छोड़ दिया तो जो बन के आएगा वो नहीं बनेगा जो हम चाहते हैं. So it's for that reason that I'm saying everyone has to decide how much time they can give, कि किस चीज पे वो कौन सी जिम्मेवारी लेना चाहते हैं, उसको कितना समय दे सकते हैं, एंड उसके बेसिस पे वी वर्क आउट कि हाउ वी फॉर्म द ग्रुप्स एंड ईच वन मेक्स अ कमिटमेंट. हर जना एक कमिटमेंट कहता है कि मैं इतना कर सकता हूँ और इतना मैं करूंगा, इससे ज्यादा आप मुझसे मत मांगे. एंड देन वी ट्राई टू पुट द होल थिंग टुगेदर. वी हैव टू रिकॉग्नाइज द फैक्ट कि हम लोगों को अपने रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी की स्ट्रगल्स के साथ साथ ये सारे काम भी कॉन्स्टेंटली करने पड़ते हैं. एक लेवल पर स्टेक होल्डर पार्टिसिपेशन is a very strong thing. At another level, it's also a huge responsibility and a constant responsibility. And I mean, when I was mentioning Pawan, because one level of his anger is coming from there. What is this? That why we are all of the time be having to do this work? Why is it that now after this many years suddenly we are being told कि आप फिर से शुरू करो? But उस चीज को हमें we have to recognize it. At the same time, because it's being done to us, हम ये नहीं कह सकते कि हम नहीं करेंगे. We don't have that luxury. हमारे पास वो ऑप्शन नहीं है. So one has to work some kind of middle situation. So that's where I'm suggesting. मैं सिर्फ एक मॉडल बोल रही हूँ we have an organization, even an individual for that matter, somebody who's really an expert in the field heads it, and then you work out how everybody else feeds into it. We could work out a form where people could put in there so that we have this whole system in place at the earliest. इतना बड़ी चीज नहीं है क्योंकि ये तो हम खुद डिसाइड कर रहे हैं कि हमें कितना समय देना कितना नहीं देना. This is about सेवा. This is not about power. This is literally about service. It's not about authority and power. It is about कि आप कौन जना कितनी जिम्मेवारी ले पाएगा और कितना टाइम दे सकेगा. This is one part of what I'm suggesting in methodology. The second part I'm also saying, see, it is true that we possibly people with disabilities are amongst the best access experts, both in terms of experience and a lot of people in terms of domain knowledge also. But it's also true that you have non-disabled people who have, जिन्होंने की accessibility पे काम करके have acquired an experience. We need both. We need the experience. हमें experience की भी जरूरत है, हमें वो domain knowledge की भी जरूरत है. There are architects जिनको मतलब accessibility बहुत ज़्यादा knowledge है. There are engineers who have it. कुछ doctors हैं जिनके पास खास करके मतलब there are special कुछ educators हैं. And everybody is not a person with disability. It's a combination. So I am suggesting we create a board of advisors. Again, हम लोगों ने crowdsource करके बहुत सारे नाम कल से मैं इकट्ठे कर रही हूँ. I have collected a number of names of people who can figure on this board of advisors, and we will take the responsibility. मतलब CDS will हम लोग ये जिम्मेवारी लेंगे कि हम एक जने को लिखें, उनसे उनकी कंसेंट मांगे कि will they be willing to be a part of our board of advisors. उनसे पूछें वो कितना समय दे पाएंगे. And that board of advisors is then made available to the groups ताकि they can check out with the board of advisors जो whatever kind of plans they are making कि कितने feasible हैं, technically क्या चीज़ इसको कैसे fine tune कर सकते हैं, what else you can do with it and all. That's the second thing that I'm putting out there. And the same point I'm making in terms of asking people कि okay, would you be able to come onto the board? Will you be what time? Will you be able to, if yes, then what kind of time you'll be able to give us? Which particular area would you want to contribute to more or less? मतलब ये चीज करके हम ये बोर्ड बना लें. और जो ये सारा चीज का कोऑर्डिनेशन का काम है कि हाँ जी लोगों के to see कि वो ग्रुप्स बन जाएं, to see कि board of advisors come on the board. ये सारी चीजें इसका जो कोऑर्डिनेशन है, कहीं पर भी कुछ भी दिक्कत आई उसकी ट्रबल शूटिंग और जो अल्टीमेट प्रोडक्ट आएगा उसको एक पूरा फॉर्म देना, ये मैं सीडीएस के हम लोग ये जिम्मेवारी ले रहे हैं. मैं मतलब आई एम सेइंग दिस रिस्पांसिबिलिटी वी विल टेक. सो दिस इज द मेथोडोलॉजी जो मैंने सोची है. हो सकता है कि मतलब मेरे को लगा कि हम डेमोक्रेसी की बात करते हैं, हम लोग कहते हैं कि लोगों के हाथ में जब खुद अपनी सत्ता आती है तो the way in which they are able to govern, that's the best governance. लेकिन progressively हम लोग we are functioning under an authoritarian structure कि कोई हमें बोल देगा कि तुम ये करना है या वो करना है. I am thinking that disability एक मॉडल प्रोवाइड कर सकता है of the kind of model where we work out what are the norms by which we will be what are the norms हम endorse कर रहे हैं, वो क्या rules हैं जो हम endorse कर रहे हैं और खुद बना रहे हैं और उसको बनाने में खुद भी सीख रहे हैं और लोगों को भी सिखा रहे हैं. Because जो सबसे बड़ी मुश्किल आती है, the biggest difficulty that you have in the enforcement of any rules is just to get people to be familiar with the rules. But if you are yourself involved in the making of rules and you have involved other people जिनको वो rules मानने हैं, उनको साथ में involve किया है, then आधा आपका काम हो जाता है in just the way in which you're making the rules. That is the biggest advantage of us getting proactively involved in this process. So this is the so last चीज जो I'm coming to my last slide और उसके बाद में the whole thing is open to discussion. जो last चीज जिस पे मैं बात करना चाह रही हूँ वो is basically, see, the thing is it's true हम लोग ये सब प्लान बना रहे हैं, लेकिन जो रूल्स बनेंगे उसका नोटिफिकेशन, द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन, एवरीथिंग तो गवर्नमेंट ने करनी है. हमने सिर्फ ये किया कि हम वी आर नॉट वेटिंग फॉर द गवर्नमेंट टू पुट इट्स एक्ट टुगेदर. हम कह रहे हैं वी आर गोइंग टू डू दिस एंड देन वी आर गोइंग टू प्रोएक्टिवली. सो आई एम प्लानिंग टू प्रोएक्टिवली राइट टू द सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ डिसेबिलिटी, you know, I was waiting for these 2 meetings to happen. उसके बाद में I wanted to write. मैं उससे पहले नहीं लिखना चाहती थी कि मेरे को था कि नहीं, तो फिर वो I wanted to write with a concrete plan. तो saying कि हमने ये meetings करी, जो भी आज हम लोग फैसला लेते हैं, जो भी हमारा डिसीजन होता है, उनको वो communicate करना, बताना. Then to say कि this is our agenda and I am also, this is with your permission, कि these were the people who attended. My issue somewhere is this, कि if you say 300, 400 people or 200, 250 people attended something, and these are all people who are leading lights of the sector, then you are saying that the sector has decided to take off on the judgment and what needs to be done. आपको as a government अब ये अपना हिस्से का काम करना शुरू, उनको फिर ये जो भी हम आज प्लान ऑफ एक्शन बनाएं, उनको ये बताना. और मेरी ये राय है, दिस इज what I am saying, कि we tell them कि we will be finishing work in this manner. कि जैसे हम सपोजिंग हमने फर्स्ट फेज का काम किया है, we are able to settle कि हम उसको fortnight में खत्म कर सकते हैं, तो we request for them to hold meetings where this is then presented to the government and can be almost immediately notified, because they don't need to go to the court to sort of, you know, notify it. Once there is a basic agreement on it, the government can notify. तो वो जो apprehension है कि आप खींच रहे हो, वो apprehension वहां पे खत्म हो जाती है. If we say, okay, this is something we want to be immediately notified, तो एक process शुरू हो गया. And then to say कि हम बाकी चीजें इस, you know, this is the deadline we are working on, then that, you know, the 3 months also start becoming, looking more manageable and kind of, if जो the discussion we had the other day, हम explainer की बात कर रहे थे, I think अखिल ने जब पहली बात बोली तो his thing somewhere was कि आप कमिश्नर को क्या पावर दे रहे हैं, आप मॉनिटरिंग का एक सिस्टम लगाइए, आप, you know, compliance को कैसे इंश्योर करेंगे. All of those kinds of things are in addition to Rule 15. लेकिन वो सब चीजें हम लोग फिर एक बारी Rule 15 की शुरुआत कर लेते हैं, तो we can then start working on it, and this setup that we put in place can become a basis by which हम जो भी इस in particular इस rules में, बहुत सारे लोग कह रहे हैं कि सिर्फ इसी रूल में प्रॉब्लम थोड़ी है, किसी और में भी है. That entire exercise we can continue to do. I mean, that's something I'm not sort of, I don't want people to get scared and say, my God, ये तो मतलब हमारे को आजीवन कारावास हो रहा है. I don't want it like that. But as we go along, हम लोग सोच सकते हैं कि what we want to do further. And this is the way in which I am suggesting we work on it. I'm stopping sharing my presentation, and we can now like look at the feasibility of what I'm suggesting.
Hi Amita, Smita here from Chennai. So I like the idea and I would like to volunteer for health services. If you look at services, there are umpteen services, so we need to also come up with a list of services. I would like to focus on health because that is the least which we are focusing, and that is the most affecting us people with disabilities basically. So that is something I would like to do. And of course for elections, I know in and out about elections, so I can take up elections also. Thank you.
Smita, I have only मेरे को सिर्फ एक request. I want to make one request to everybody. Is this कि because at this point of time, I'm not sure कि कोई minutes ले रहा है कि नहीं, and I'm listening and writing. So if you could just write to SAC at the end of this, so there will be one record which comes in. Of course, there is a recording, but then it will be easier that way.
Sure, I will do. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Ayush. Ayush, you had your hand up. Yeah. Or is it Sudesh?
It's fine. I'm saying I'm ready to do whatsoever is required in the education sector, though I have been also networking with the other sectors also as per need. And here I will also like to mention, for example, yes, partnership with government is a very important thing. For example, Arman should be sharing this, that under Javed Fellowship, we try to get the science open for the persons with disability. So through that channel, it has become a part of the MSJ's mandate. So I think if we can have that channel also open side by side, it will be a very good idea, because ultimately we have to work together, whatsoever government may be there, whatsoever secretary may be there. But that process is very, very important, that we start the dialogue at the earliest. Thank you very much. And as I said, we have been working together for a long time on all these issues, and I am still available.
Thank you so much,
I will
Sudesh.
continue to be.
इतना सारा एक्सपीरियंस है आपका, तो फायदा ही होगा.
नहीं, ठीक है.
Okay, Saurav Roy Chaudhary or Ravi.
Sorry, ma'am. Sorry. Saurav is the sign language interpreter, ma'am.
I know. I mean, it's
done.
Sorry.
Okay. Ravi, can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes, Ravi, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I specifically am based in Bangalore, and two things I can also connect and help it out. The community, the disabled community, because we have got a plethora of them based in Bangalore, NGOs and DPOs and on and on. So I can also help in facilitating them, and I can also help in because we got a robust system for the government system is really quite robust, and I can also, because we got the commissioner, the director, the chief secretary, and all. So these and all are in the even plane, because right now we are also having the World Disability Day, and everybody is also coming out in the part of that. So if we could also be we would definitely like to be a part of it. Along with this, if you can also tell us about what to do to work in the system, if you can also clarify it, I will also work it out with the community and the system, so that becomes effective for implementation at the policy level, at the practical level, ma'am.
See, Ravi, at this point of time, it's a very bare structure with which I had started. We start cooking on maybe tons of references and stuff like that. But I think in the first instance, we will test ourselves out with the first phase,
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we kind of then move to the second phase, and that will give us a little bit of time also to work it out. What I have presented to you is the first level idea of how to create, an inclusive governance structure, let's say.
Yeah. Amita, only one thing I wanted to say, which will have implication for all of us. Just now we are working, say, on 21 disabilities. Am I right? But there are also parents group and other who are struggling with the conditions which have not been identified. So that's why recently there has been a modification in the latest guidelines issued by the thing, where they have muscular dystrophy and other multiple sclerosis, and all these has been mentioned. So we need to create legally a point, as and when any such condition is there, that will automatically be done, because we need a
your statute allows for it to happen. That's one part of it. The second part of it is that, the Supreme Court, in including ichthyosis.
Yeah.
Ichthyosis is not a condition, but the Supreme Court has included it.
Yeah.
And on this basis, there is a provision in the statute which allows for this inclusion to happen.
Yeah.
हमारा तो inclusion का जो basic principle है वो रहेगा.
That's what I'm saying, कि हमें अपने उसमें ये वाली बात लिखनी चाहिए, ताकि आगे के लिए हमें बार-बार ये एक्सरसाइज ना करें.
नहीं, देखिए आप कुछ भी कर लेंगे, आपको बार-बार, मतलब the thing is, कोई नई इम्पेयरमेंट आएगी तो उसके लिए एक्सरसाइज करनी पड़ेगी. You have to be just
वो है, चांसेस ये है, क्योंकि
open to inclusion रहेंगे.
अमिता, चांसेस ये हैं कि हम पैरेलल्स करना चाहेंगे, 21 या 30 डिसेबिलिटीज का नहीं होगा. कहीं पे कन्वर्जेंस के बारे में भी सोचना पड़ेगा कि विच आर द कॉमन थिंग्स. अगर उन प्रिंसिपल्स पे चलेंगे तो नेगोशिएबल चीजें हम ज्यादा अच्छी बना पाएंगे, जो मैंडेटरी बन सकती हैं.
That is why, Sudesh, we have not made 21. We have made 6.
हाँ.
Was 6
groups are. I really appreciate the way you have visualized the sectors, and within that I was trying to visualize how does one look at from education across these 6 sectors and all. So I think it's a workable solution and we can move forward. But I thought these things, and because again, these issues will also come up when the reservation things and all those type will come. So I thought I will just make this a broader statement at this point. Thank you.
Ashutosh.
गुड इवनिंग मैम, आप मतलब ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से मतलब ये चाह रहे हो कि वो डिवाइड करके मतलब सेक्टर में या एक्सेसिबिलिटी या जो भी आपका बिल्डिंग इन्वायरमेंट है या आईसीटी है तो उसके ऊपर काम करें और उसमें भी फिर डिवाइड करके पर्सन्स विद विजुअल इम्पेयरमेंट और इस तरह से डिवाइड करके करें, राइट? तो उसमें क्या इंडिविजुअल विद डिसेबिलिटी को आपने मेंशन तो किया कि इंडिविजुअल विद डिसेबिलिटी भी वॉलंटियर बन सकता है?
बिल्कुल 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 बिल्कुल
मतलब मैं बनना चाहता हूँ पर मुझे आइडिया बिल्कुल नहीं है, मुझे गाइडेंस चाहिए होगी आपसे, सहायता चाहिए होगी।
आशुतोष देखो, आपको ये फैसला करना पड़ेगा कि आप सबसे ज्यादा अच्छा कंट्रीब्यूशन कहाँ कर सकते हैं, या आप ये कह सकते हैं कि मैं वॉलंटियर करना चाहता हूँ, जिस भी ग्रुप को मदद की जरूरत है मैं अपनी मदद प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूँ। मतलब कितने तरीकों से, देखो काम बहुत सारा होता है, मिलजुल के हो जाता है। तो आप खुद को थोड़ा सोचो कि मैं क्या बेस्ट कर सकता हूँ, जो आप बेस्ट कर सकते हो उसके मुताबिक आप वॉलंटियर करो। हम बिल्कुल नहीं कह रहे हैं कि सिर्फ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, इंडिविजुअल्स आर एज मच वेलकम।
मैम आई कैन वॉलंटियर इन एक्सेसिबिलिटी।
आशुतोष टाइम है तुम्हारे पास, अभी सोच लो, कोई बात अभी के अभी थोड़ी फैसला मांग रही हूँ मैं, सिर्फ सोचने का टाइम दे रही हूँ।
ओके मैम, थैंक यू।
Dipendra, hi.
Your microphone is on.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, good to see you. Bolo.
I mean, I just unfortunately yesterday,
Like
your last meeting I could not do, so I just saw the YouTube.
आज की मीटिंग कहीं पे ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है सर, थैंक यू सो मच।
I saw the YouTube this recording of that also. Very well done. Thank you so much. So two things I wanted to bring up. I think there is when we talk about ICT also, I think we just wanted to flag that yes, this Indian standard IS 17802 has been released and notified by the government. So instead of saying website accessibility, I think we need to start taking IS 17802 as the base. Base means we can say that okay, we can do a review, as you're saying, that we can consider doing that review on whether already we have taken that into consideration, that this standard is the one which is the step one, because that was part of the whole process.
Dipendra, are you in agreement with the basic proposal that is being put?
Yeah, 100%.
So then this is further detail we can discuss further.
Okay.
At this point of time, I am no more looking for that. I have proposed a model. If you're in agreement with it, then we move forward on that count. If you want anybody wants a tweaking on that, then we can think about it. That's basically where I'm coming from. At this point of time, the fine tunes and other things we will work out as we go to each group and work out the terms of reference and things of that kind.
Okay, perfect. I'm
just tell us exactly what you would be available for. If you write to us on that count, it will be very helpful.
We'll definitely do that. Thanks.
Rajshekar.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Rajshekar.
Couple of suggestions, ma'am. Firstly, I think we should have the entire document available in all our regional languages, and that's how we could really reach out to a larger larger number of people, even up to the grassroots level.
Which document?
The Supreme Court document.
The judgment?
Yes.
Okay.
So, is it available in other languages?
No.
That will be very helpful, ma'am.
Not today. At the moment, no, Rajshekar, because the Supreme Court only pronounces in English.
Okay, yeah. I'm aware of that, so I'm just hinting.
Yeah, I mean, we can find out what is the possibilities. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anavaram.
Thank you. At the outset, thank you for this initiative. and I'm in complete. I have my complete endorsement for what you have been suggesting. I particularly like the idea of having circles within. I think that's the way we can move on. But I'm particularly interested in higher education because within the higher education, you have all these multiple sectors, but it is not possible for somebody to come and say, we will do the transport, somebody will come and say, we do the website accessibility. I think when we think of institutions like higher education, universities, colleges, hospitals, probably we might have to adopt a different approach. You know it better than all of us. And also, we are working with non-governmental organizations, individuals. But once you get in touch with the ministry, we should also have a way to get the institutions into our framework. Not necessarily they may have to do the activist work the way we do, but at least they should be able to give us the inputs we need, because a lot of our youngsters are now in the colleges and the universities, and a lot of us will be accessing hospitals. How do we really take them into account when we frame these guidelines and ultimately which will be implemented? I think that's where I would like you to think about.
Can I just seek a clarification?
Yeah.
When you are talking about institutions, what do you have in mind?
I really have colleges and universities where I'm primarily concerned, and of course, I am also thinking about hospitals. And perhaps we haven't spoken about, probably for a good reason, about the private employers, big multinational companies. They are doing accessibility testing, other things and stuff, but there is no external supervision. So when we are preparing these accessibility guidelines, how are we going to deal with them? Are we taking them on board? I think we should have an approach to take them on board as institutions, whether they're private or government. That's what my thought.
I think, Anavaran, to some extent, I get your point, but I think some of it possibly when the persons who are helming the group, they try to work out, then it might sort of, that this is an agenda which may come more appropriately, but I will keep it in mind as we are framing the terms of reference. I take your point.
Sure.
And Alamelu, the name you are suggesting, if you were to just write to SAC, it will help a lot.
Ma'am, what do you need? Excuse me.
You were suggesting somebody's
Jackie
name.
Boni. Yeah.
Board. No, I'm just saying if you write to sac@nalsar.ac.in.
Sure. I'll do that. And I am also in complete agreement with what you have proposed, but I still would like to echo again what Dr. Anavaram has pointed out, that when it comes to accessibility, it's very significant that we look at institution-based accessibility instead of accessibility in general. So what is non-negotiable in general in terms of accessibility might not be enough as non-negotiable category in higher education.
No, I am only saying one thing to both Anavaram as well as to you, that you need to take into account that you have to firstly start with the general non-negotiability and then go to customizing. Don't try to do everything together, because that's where we are talking about first phase and second phase. I'm just putting it out as a cautionary thing.
Sure.
Because sometimes you kind of feel everything. We can't eat everything together. No? So let's just start with dal chawal.
Yeah, ma'am, that is completely agreeable. But but then at the same time,
Alamelu, what I'm trying to say to all of you is only this much. I perfectly understand that you want everything to be sorted out, but the truth of the matter is that we are actually running behind. We are running behind, and I'm just saying this. We need to even hurry has to happen. Sometimes even hurry takes time. It's as simple as that. Even hurry takes time. So I'm only saying I am not in disagreement. And if that slide, Alamelu, I'll share with you. I had put that slide for the next phase, and I think when I spoke, I forgot to mention it. When we are talking in terms of the sectors, we don't just tell them what we want as mandatory. हम सिर्फ वो नहीं बताते हैं. This is not for you, Alamelu. This is for the others. I'm speaking in Hindi. That हम सिर्फ वो ना बताएं कि what is it जो आपको करना ही है. we must also say what we want as guidelines. It is not like we are abandoning guidelines. We are not. So in that phase, you will have, the other things to come in there. So I'm only sort of saying to you that in the first instance, just let's talk about staple diet, because you need to get that dal chawal in place. You need to get your dal roti in place. Otherwise, people from the north will have me. You need to have whatever, whichever. Before we start thinking in terms of the other dishes on the plate. That's the only point I'm making. Because we are running behind. I have no disagreement. I will put it in the terms also, but I'm only saying I will put it in the progressive terms. I won't start from there. You will complicate your life over much if you start from there. Okay, Akhil.
Thank you very much, Didi, for suggesting the step forward. We are complete agreement on that. In terms of volunteering, from Sense India, we will have about 5 people who can work on the major theme areas that you have said and look into particularly the needs.
You need to give us 6 because we have 6 groups.
Okay, we'll have 6, and we will specifically bring in the component of deaf blindness and accessibility in all those areas.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Akhil.
Thank you.
तुम्हारे साथ हमेशा काम करने में यही मजा आता है. You have this very constructive way of thinking. I mean, I have a long history of working with you, so I know what I'm talking about.
Thanks, Didi.
Okay, Percy.
Good evening, Dr. Amita and everybody. And I'm okay with whatever, guys, support what you have proposed, and I'm happy to contribute. Dr. Sudesh was talking about education, and somebody else I forgot, so I'm happy to be a part of that team, education team. And if there is any support required for back-end research for any groups, I'm happy to contribute there. And also, the coordination group, if there's anything that is required to, tie in everything that comes.
Thank you, Percy. Thank you. If you would write to us also, that will be helpful.
Yeah, I'm happy to be involved in that. Yes, thank you.
Okay, Ambalika.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. Thank you for this webinar and your inputs, ma'am. So I just wanted to highlight here that with India's hilly terrain, parts of it, which is about 30% of the country's land area, it presents the unique challenges for ensuring accessibility in the built environment, especially in the Northeast where I'm from, and I'm from Guwahati. And it's absolutely not possible to implement, what you call requirements like 1:12 gradient and for ramps and so on. So while we work on establishing the mandatory guidelines for the built environment, it is critical that we have to tailor it in the context of the hilly areas as well. Perhaps the guidelines can be a balance of the aspirational global standards with practical solutions that are feasible. Like you already said, we might have some available technology or something may not be available in the country, as well as other local topography and infrastructure capabilities that we might have. And I would be happy to contribute on anything to do with the built environment.
Ambalika, if you could just write to us, because I think we would desperately need somebody who will tell us exactly how it should be customized.
So, ma'am, I don't know. I don't have an answer for how it should be customized because
even if we raise it up, then we kind of because that's where our list of experts will
I tried to find and try to get material to understand how accessibility is being done in the hilly area, especially in the Scandinavian countries, which are really kind of developed countries. So I don't have much access to that. Perhaps we need some technical input from an architect.
See, Ambalika, that's the reason why we have that board of advisors.
Right.
So we will then kind of like turn to the board of advisors to see what they can suggest we can do. Yeah. So you would be making it a concern that this must get addressed. And then we kind of
try a solution for this, ma'am. I want a solution for this.
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah,
the
that's,
Northeast and I see every day new buildings coming up.
no, absolutely. I mean, one totally agrees with you. And that's exactly why this exercise is worth doing. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And I would be happy to be a part of this built environment group, ma'am.
Okay, Vaishnavi is telling you that there are specifications for buses for hilly areas. So it's a question of finding out what kind of specifications we need for buildings in hilly areas.
Absolutely, yeah.
Poonam. Poonam. Poonam has a hand.
Hi. Sorry. Amita, sorry.
Come.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. It's been great listening to you. And before me, Umul is sitting with me and she wants to talk, and then I will.
Okay. Urmul, come on.
Yeah, I will. I will work on. I'll support on the eco transport ecosystem. So because we have been working also like first mile and last mile connectivity here in Chennai.
Oh yeah. Right. So fine, you, Urmul, my same request. I'm making that request to everybody. I'm happy that you are saying it here, but please also write it because it will make the other task little easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, I thought Urmul, you would volunteer for the law part.
Yeah, we are working on this also.
I'm only sort of like making it very clear. We have different.
Yeah, definitely, I will do that also.
Yeah, Poonam.
Yeah. Thanks, Amita. I think I couldn't come yesterday, but the explainer has been great. Thank you for sending the video. I'm still to listen to half of it. But we are happy to support anywhere. But I would like to focus a little bit on housing and the built infrastructure because that's one area which just gets left out most of the time. And it's a lot. I mean, when we're talking about living independently in the community, that's one big concern. So I'd like to look at housing also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jamshed.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I think, Amita, you need to be very, very clear about one aspect. The mandate, I just read the order again just now, is very clear. It is focusing on the mandatory part. It says that everything else can be there and there is no difficulty in that. So let's focus on the mandatory part. Yes, if you want to take the first part, I mean, as you suggested, no difficulty on that. Law, yes, I'd be very happy. The other thing is I would love to bring in, for example, there is a very good college of architecture in Ahmedabad who is doing a lot of work. I will be happy to bring them in.
Yeah, Jamshed, I think it will be helpful. And we are focusing on the mandatory. The problem, Jamshed, is basically this, that all of these areas, there is a mishmash between what is directory and what is mandatory. So in segregating it, we need to work this out. That's exactly what the court has also said. But there are certain things which should be mandatory, and there are other things which can be, what should I say, recommendatory. But the distinction is missing, and it's that distinction that we are bringing in. And there are also things for which, like for people with neurodiversity, psychosocial disability, they have been mentioned in the 2021 harmonized guidelines, but then you have created nothing for them. So that's an absence. We have to virtually create those guidelines. It's like it is. So when you talk and we know there is a mandatory component, but that mandatory component is missing. So when you're asking to create it, that's the reason why one is to segregate between what is already there, and the other is where something which must have been there is not there. We'll have to do both. We can't not do the other.
Anyway, whenever it comes to it, we will. I don't want to say anything just now.
All right. I mean, I am telling you how I am reading the judgment and what was being said to the court. So it's both the things are coming on that basis. Okay, Sachin. Thank you, Sachin. Yeah. I mean, I think it's only correct that you should be doing it.
Hi, ma'am. So thank you very much. So yesterday I missed the talk, but I visited the video. So yes, so as you know, we pointed out about the accessibility and these 6 pointers you mentioned. I'm totally in agreement. I just have this one doubt that at what stage we are going to involve the government stakeholders. So at least
government stakeholders,
but primarily the people working in government and looking at disability, for instance, disability commissioners and other involved in the
See,
area.
that is the government's show. That's
Okay.
we will go to the government and say this is what we are doing. We're going to ask for those meetings if the government sort of like we will ask for meetings from them after we produce a certain amount of work. Otherwise, it will go on a back and forth and nothing will happen.
Okay. Yeah.
See, in that last slide, Sachin, I had very clearly said I'll write to the secretary. I will ask for a schedule of meetings, and the meetings will necessarily be with the disability establishment of the government.
True.
We can't take charge of that because we cannot bring them in. They can only be brought in by the government. They can't come from us.
Yeah, because this is what generally we feel the gap, So like when we talk about in hilly states particularly, so here we have things on accessibility. Like I have covered almost multiple number of schools in district Shimla in past 1.5 year, all government schools primarily. So in all these schools, for the namesake, they provided with few of them have these ramps. But वो रैंप पे तक वो स्कूल तक पहुंचने के लिए you have to climb 200 सीढ़ी. जैसे मैं अभी आज ही कहीं से होके आ रहा हूँ, तो it has almost 200 stairs. और फिर वहां पे they are saying कि देखो हमारे पास रैंप भी है. But then who is going to use it?
ये हमें सबको मालूम है, रैंप की कहानी हम सबको मालूम है.
So that's something. So
see, my thing is very clear. I am very clear कि government के साथ हमें communication शुरू करना ही पड़ेगा. There's no doubt. But I am saying this कि we will start with the secretary. The secretary brings his team. I cannot say how I'm going to involve because that is an impossible thing.
True.
Why would they listen to us? They will listen to the Secretary of Ministry of Disability. Why would they listen to us?
True. Agreed. So yeah. So this is what.
Yeah. I take on. I mean, you write to us also, Sachin, but I've taken on note of the fact that you want to work on accessibility in hilly areas.
Sure, ma'am.
But please write. Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
Kuhu. Yeah, Asha. Yeah. I would submit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
I was just responding. Asha, I think that would come within services, no?
I don't know because I haven't seen it anywhere. So
no, I am sort of thinking in terms of that if you are talking.
Yeah.
I would somewhere think that disaster management and what you're going to do during disasters would necessarily come within services.
Could be.
Because it's a service that you have, no?
It's also a different thing that is different than other times. So it's not only services, it goes beyond that. So I'm not sure really. I'll leave that to you, but I think...
I would at least put it within services. That's how I see it.
Okay.
I'll think further. My first thought has come on that basis. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I mean, I saw Asha.
No, it's okay because I will also join with Asha Di. Like in the service, I will also like to be a part of the disaster management thing if we are coming into that. Other than that, my primary area of interest is built environment. So I'll be volunteering for that as my own capacity. And later when we have the subgroups, then I can choose that which areas under accessibility, built environment, which area I can fit in. So I will write to that to the email ID that is given.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kuhu. Thank you.
Thanks.
Shivapriya.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Ma'am, I'm in agreement with the methodology you're recommending, and it looks very logical and workable to me. My expertise comes from digital accessibility, and I'd love to volunteer in that space. ICT.
Okay.
And I'm a person with visual impairment, so I can also contribute across sectors wherever a usability perspective is needed from a VI perspective. And my additional interest would be in school education, ma'am. Inclusive learning spaces at schools.
All right. Thank you so much, Shiva. I mean, I'm making the same request to everybody that please also write to us. Okay.
I did write to SAC, ma'am,
Yeah, yeah,
a week
please.
ago. Yeah.
Ahuti.
Hello.
Yeah.
Audible, madam?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Go ahead.
Okay, I just go straight forward and I have three concerns to share. First is methodological, second is intentional, and third one is legal. First, taking up methodological, what I understand is right now we are thinking about accessibility into 6 sectors. And for example, let us take sector 1, that of built environment. Then what I understand is built environment, again it will include so many types of buildings, but built environment should be accessible for as many as disabilities as we can make it right now to make it inclusive. And again we will have to ensure that we are from zero starting to step 1 going for step 1 only and not for step 5. So sector wise groups are okay, but again we can also think that each sector, say sector 1, built environment, will be thinking on all the different disabilities and will be collecting their barriers as well as their remedies, first hand account of barriers as well as remedies from the first concerned parties. And then we can have the checkmate from the or monitoring from the experts voice also, so that we can have the combination of the first hand requirement as well as what can be feasible or possible in our country from the experts point of view also. So we can have this combination, this kinds of sector wise as well as disability wise that we can do. Or simply also we can form a Google form also, in which all these 6 sectors will be mentioned, and barriers, the same way testimony that we had for the earlier report, that all these 6 sectors, barriers you fill, disabled people may fill it out 1 or 2 or 3, and then the remedies that suggest. Now again in that also we will have to be, the participants will have to be careful that they are not imagining something of creating utopia also. This is what we are creating, enforceable and punishable provisions only. So that combination, methodological point is that if we can ensure sector as well as each sector addressing all the possible disabilities, so that one thing can be there, so that we can have, when we are creating Google group, there will be type of disability, so we will have the responses that okay, locomotor disabilities have major suggestions.
Yeah, Ahuti, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. What's your point?
So that can be done, and Google group will be rather helpful to us to work out for that group also, that okay, this disability is offering major suggestions for this 3rd sector or 4th sector or 5th sector. Second point is that of once again this is for our participants, madam, but you will have to monitor it that we are not creating any utopia, because as I attended earlier meeting also, participants are visualizing or expecting the revolution through this rules that we are making or something. So we will have to think, or all the participants also should be addressed or should be clearly instructed that we will be thinking what if not done.
Agreed, agreed. What is the legal point?
And for legal point, I think that so far as possible, at present, say national building code or other whichever other statutes are concerning with us, these are however not enforceable one also. But I think that if we are mentioning some provisions or some facilities which go beyond that statutes or something, I think that legally we will be in a stand to mention it very clearly that all the concerned rules or act shall be amended according to this guideline. So if anything is going
That's
beyond
exactly the
that
exercise
particular
now.
rule should be amended.
Ahiti, we are doing that exercise only, Ma. We are actually doing that exercise.
No, but say National Building Code has
I know, but the government, the Supreme Court has asked for to identify those which will be made mandatory. So that is exactly the exercise.
Yeah, making mandatory that, but that's, I say that our rules will be given priority. If anything that say contravenes with the National Building Code, then National Building Code will have to
our
be
rules will be
amended.
made in the National Building Code.
Pardon, madam?
Amma, the National Building Code, whatever we're going to put there will be that which will have to be enforced. National Building Code will not have a separate existence.
Okay. Got the point.
Chalo,
Okay.
Thank you, Amita. Thank you so much. Okay, Bhumika Trust.
Yeah, good evening, ma'am. I'm Jayant this side on the behalf of the trust, ma'am. So we are looking to volunteer for the higher education institutions, ma'am.
Oh, I thought you all will do transport.
No, ma'am. We are more on clean to do for the higher education institutions. So that's the idea all about.
ठीक है. Okay.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Prakash Andhere Saab.
हेलो,
हाय. हाँ जी अंधेरे साहब बोलिए.
मेरी आवाज सुनाई आ रही है आपको?
हाँ, बिल्कुल सुनाई दे रही है.
मुझे आपका ओवरऑल प्लान ऑफ एक्शन तो पसंद आया, पर मेरे जो कंसर्न है वो उसमें कैसे अकोमोडेट होंगे ये मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, जैसे मैंने पॉइंट आउट किया है कि अगर सीढ़ियां हो तो उसकी स्टेप हाइट क्या होनी चाहिए, बिल्डिंग कोड में लिखा है, मगर उसमें और रैम्प प्रोवाइड करने को कहा है. पर जहाँ पे फर्स्ट सेकंड थर्ड फ्लोर पे आपको सीढ़ियां होती है वहां पे आप रैम्प भी लगा नहीं सकते और स्टेप हाइट का कुछ फर्क नहीं होता. तो ऐसे इसमें क्या गाइडलाइंस होनी चाहिए या क्या मेंटेन होनी, जिसके बारे में देयर इज अ डार्क पैच इन द बिल्डिंग कोड. तो ऐसी एरियाज में हम क्या कर सकते हैं? जैसे मेरा कहना है कि जहां आपको फर्स्ट सेकंड थर्ड फ्लोर पे जाना है, जब लिफ्ट नहीं है, रैंप लगा नहीं सकते और सीढ़ियों की हाइट चेक नहीं, कुछ होगा नहीं, तो ऐसे समय वहां पे वो जो स्टेयर लिफ्ट जो कहते हैं, जो कि मैंडेटरी ग्राउंड में बिल्डिंग कोड में दी है, वो सब किसी का ख्याल ही नहीं जाता. या जो स्टेयर के क्लाइंबिंग व्हील चेयर प्रोवाइड करना, ये सब बातें की तरफ ख्याल नहीं जाता. यानी मेरा कहना है कि भाई ग्राउंड फ्लोर टू थर्ड फ्लोर तक अगर किसी को एक्टिविटी प्रोवाइड करनी है तो क्या होना चाहिए मेजर, इसके बारे में nobody has said anything. और मैं कहना चाहता हूँ इसमें हाँ,
इस वक्त तो आप उसको बिल्ड एनवायरनमेंट में ही डालेंगे ना, तो फिर आप बिल्ड एनवायरनमेंट में इसको कैसे इनकॉर्पोरेट करना चाहते हैं, दैट इज द एग्जैक्ट थिंग दैट ग्रुप विल सेटल. आज की तारीख में तो हम सिर्फ मेथोडोलॉजी बना रहे थे.
तो ये सब इंक्लूड करने के लिए मैं उस ग्रुप में होना चाहूंगा कि जहां पे ये बात कवर होगा.
हाँ ठीक है अंधेरे साहब.
और 2 पॉइंट और हैं जिससे मुझे ट्रांसपोर्ट में इंटरेस्ट है, कि जैसे आपको जो बस ट्रांसपोर्ट को एक्सेल बनाने के लिए अप्रोच है कि आप उसको रैंप अप्रोच प्रोवाइड करिएगा. मेरा अप्रोच इससे बिल्कुल अलग है. रैंप अप्रोच से आप सिर्फ व्हीलचेयर वालों के लिए सुविधा बना सकते हैं, बट जो एम्बुलेटरी डिसेबिलिटी वाले लोग होते हैं उनके लिए व्हाट इज इम्पोर्टेंट कि बस की सीढ़ियां जो कि अभी 13-13 इंच हाई होती है उसको 6-6 इंच की बनाई जाए. तो इस टाइप का अप्रोच मैं किस टाइप से आपके सिस्टम में इम्प्लीमेंट कर सकता हूँ, ये मैं जानना चाहता हूँ.
देखिए, आपको बेसिकली आप सारे ग्रुप्स में तो हो नहीं पाएंगे, तो जो आपका सबसे ज्यादा इंटरेस्ट वाला ग्रुप है उसमें हो जाइए और दूसरे में सजेशन भेज दीजिए. यही तरीका हो सकता है.
हाँ एग्जैक्टली, क्योंकि रेलवे ट्रांसपोर्ट, बट ट्रांसपोर्ट और ये
मैं वही बोल रही हूँ कि आपने जो डिसाइड की विच वन यू फील जहां पे आपको होना ही बनता है और कहां पर आप सजेशंस भेजना चाहेंगे. तो जिस किस्म से आप अपनी प्रायोरिटी देखिए, अपना टाइम और प्रायोरिटी देखिए, उसके मुताबिक हम तो आपका इनपुट चाहते हैं, कैसे भी दीजिए आप.
तो ठीक है, मुझे एक्सेसिबिलिटी इन बिल्डिंग के लिए बताइएगा, जहाँ पे ग्राउंड फ्लोर टू थर्ड फ्लोर के लिए।
अंधारे साहब, आप मेरे को उस पे सैक पे लिख दीजिए और अपना ये दोनों कंसर्न लिख दीजिए, हम उसको ध्यान में रख के ग्रुप बनाएंगे तो उसको ध्यान में।
ठीक है मैडम, थैंक यू वेरी मच।
निपुण।
Yeah, firstly, congratulations, ma'am, on this great initiative. I think it's great that you're making this process so democratic. I just had 2 points. Firstly, I know you'll be writing to the secretary, but I think engaging with the department is going to be as important as the building up these guidelines in that sense, so that it's not just a theoretical exercise. So
No. And we are not delaying it over much, but I didn't want to do it before we had talked to the sector. It didn't seem a correct thing to do.
I got it. No, I completely understand that. And secondly, personally, I would love to help with the accessibility in the built environment based on my experience. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Nipun. Priya.
Hello. Yes. Hi, ma'am. Ma'am, my work area was in caregiving research. I was researching for caregiving services. According to me, caregiving is very important for both disabled community and also we can cover it in for elderly sector. So, ma'am, I will volunteer for service sector in caregiving aspect, if it is possible, ma'am.
Oh yeah, sure, Priya. I am making the same request to everybody, so you please write to us, and we will accordingly sort of as we.
Yeah, ma'am. I will write to you on your email ID.
I don't know what happened to my row. I had raised hands. I've lost them. Where they were all there. Done something wrong. Where do I get the raised hands?
There was a queue, but there were only 5 people on it.
There were some more people who were.
Another one, I think, has finished.
The next one is Devaraj B.
Okay, can you please? Because I don't know why mine has gone away.
Okay. Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for this
Yes,
initiative and extensive presentation. I have one concern actually. We are putting the things in a way that it is an urban centric or an elite perspective. We are completely ruling out the rural sector.
No.
Because my concern is the Rajshekhar sir also has raised somewhat, because who can be part of this exercise or those who are attending yesterday's meeting or today's meeting or upcoming couple of meetings. But what about the others, those who are in rural areas, who don't access to this judgment and they're not aware of the things and all. Of course, we have a little time, but we need to consider these aspects as well. This is my concern.
We'll try to reach out to organizations who are based in rural areas.
Yeah, if you can reach to the grassroots organizations.
I think your point is well made. We will do that.
Yeah, and the other thing that I can contribute to the education sector in any way, from school education to higher education. Particularly, I can work with an adult education because that one is an unexplored aspect.
Also, if you have any connections in the rural area and you can help us in connecting, please do.
Sure, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Devraj.
Next one.
Handicare. It's mera aa gaya. I got my window back. Handicare. नहीं वो मैंने switch कर दिया तो वो दूसरा दिखने लग गया.
Good evening, Professor Dhanda. This is Dr. Goel from Handicare.
Hi.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going a little back. I just want that this judgment is about 51 pages. Rajive Raturi judgment.
Yeah.
Can we have a simplified lines in Hindi or in regional languages so we can understand the?
I think somebody else has also just suggested to us, and someone else gave a response in the chat. I wasn't able to read it, but.
Yeah, they said that there's a department within the Supreme Court which actually does translate.
No, listen,
someone called Aditi.
Listen, I'm not asking it in the regional language. I'm asking it. The main point should be. Even in English is fine with us. No problem in Hindi or English or in other Tamil languages. So what I'm saying is the judgment is 51 pages. So can we have the major points in simple language or simple English? These are the major points of the judgment. You to read the 51 pages English in lawyer's language is very difficult for a general person. You see, we forget that we are.
Point well taken. We'll try and see what we
Thank
can
you.
do.
That's what I want to say. Not in any language is fine. The English is very much.
No, one gets. You're asking for basically plain language. That's
Yeah. I just want the major points of the judgment.
Yeah, I get you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Rahul.
Good evening, Dr. Dhanda. So, we'll write to you separately in terms of where mission accessibility can help. Uh, what I wanted to ask about is this: that what is your thought on how this process that Nalsar CDS is undertaking, and the process that the government internally intends to undertake to comply with the judgment, as to how the two can converge and we
No,
can
see,
arrive
the
at
way
a
I'm, no,
consensus.
see, Rahul, the way I'm seeing it is that I would, that's why I said of my presentation ended with that point of my writing to the secretary and to inform him of what we are doing. Which is like, I don't know what the government is doing because I have not been informed. But I am writing to him and starting the communication. So then we'll take it from there. Because one is very clear that this is something we have to do together. And there is nothing adversarial about this. So one will share with the government what are the kind of resources we can bring, what inputs we can bring, and to sort of, if I am certain that they will be happy if we are going to tell them that we are, like trying to make the stakeholder consultation as democratic as possible. And there's something which is easier done from a civil society, mooring than it can be done from the government. And at the same time, like somebody was asking me, what about the various establishments of the government working within disability? And I said, that is something that the government can facilitate, we can't. But we can work out a way where, or places where we can be in communication with each other. I mean, so that's the basic idea, I mean, otherwise what lands up happening is if you don't proactively talk within the sector, then it becomes like a government choice as to who they are speaking with or not. And that's what we feel is not so okay. I don't think you'll have any disagreement with that, Rahul.
No, not at all, not at all. I'm just trying to
I'm
see
saying
what the
I'm conscious of the fact that I think Sudesh also endorsed that factor. Other people are also saying the same thing. I am very clear about it, that we are doing this with the government, not against the government.
Yeah. Because I would imagine that even the ministries that have framed these various guidelines will probably have a role to play. So how do we
I don't
make
know
sure?
because they evidently have only demonstrated large-scale ignorance, Rahul. I'm sorry to say that.
Amita, at this point, we will also need to have a dialogue with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare.
I think
the Light Health Services Bill has been passed by them.
No, Suresh, the thing is somewhere is this, as far as accessibility is concerned, the primary ministry is the Ministry of Social Justice.
Yeah, that's true. But MCI and AICT also has been taking out the notification after the Supreme Court judgments. So that's what I thought I should mention that also.
My only issue is somewhere this, that I think that is something we can't discuss in today's meeting. But
we can do it later on.
I am saying is that if the fact, I think it's a pulling back that is required, that you require an apex ministry which has to take charge of accessibility. It can't be everybody.
No, it is DPWD only which will be the.
It will have to be that, And I think Rahul is a lawyer. He knows that. I mean,
listen to him on Vidhi.
Bhumika.
Hi, good evening, Professor Dhanda. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for organizing this. I really appreciate it. And I think everyone's inputs were great. I have a small suggestion with respect to the methodology. So I'm sure a lot of you are also aware of the project that we're working on, where we have done something very similar. And we've come up with a very basic list of what accessibility means for like a basic compliance for accessibility. What we've done is use the harmonized guidelines and juxtapositioned the
minimum compliance for each building versus the minimum requirement for each disability, and then come up with a basic list which we've used for the app. So what I wanted to suggest, and maybe see if we can explore that, is instead of doing a build, transport, assistive technologies, which has its own value, what I was suggesting, if we can do the 5 groups of disability, because their needs would be different, but similar when it comes to the space. So if it's a ramp, the need would be a ramp.
I missed the point that you made just now.
Okay, I was saying, like, if instead of dividing into the 6 groups that you have mentioned, which have its own value, I wanted to understand if we can explore the possibility of having the 6 groups, rather than location or kind of building, having them in groups of disability. So one can be physical disability, or one can be locomotor, visual, neuro, intellectual disability, etc. Because what I have observed, again, please, anyone can, we can explore this, that the requirements of accessibility are the same and may differ very basically when it comes to the kind of building. So if it's a wheelchair user, the requirement would be a ramp, whether it's built environment, whether it's transport, whether it's any services, education or hospital. So if we group the recommendations based on disability, I think it might it'd be easier to implement.
No, Bhumika, I think you missed the point.
Okay.
We did not say that what we said was that the biggest box or the largest circle is going to be the sector, within which then you will take disability and you will take region differences and stuff like that.
But I was suggesting if we can...
Because if you do it by disability, then what ends up happening is this, that the focus changes. And for us, the whole cross-disability interaction is a very integral part of how you are doing norm creation.
Okay.
Rulemaking or laws don't happen without a political conversation.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you.
Okay. I think Suman. Or is it Aarti Batra? I'm sorry.
Hi.
Yeah, Aarti, please come.
Yeah, hello, Amita. It was really nice hearing the methodology, and I do agree with most of it. But as the point was mentioned about the ruler of the country that is being, as it was mentioned, that is not being taken into account as holistically. So maybe there can be a stakeholder consultation or an FGD with organization collective that are working on those grassroots, and we collectively can work around getting reaching out to those grassroots organizations and push it forward. Secondly, I just wanted to introduce that we work on invisible and hidden disabilities, and as Bhumika mentioned, making it disability centric. I agree with your point, Amita, that when we talk about cross disability work, it is very broad. You cannot segregate it into 5 or 6, because you will end up losing someone or the other. So the idea is to have as inclusive a space as it can be. However, when we are talking about mandating and recommendatory accessibility work, what happens is a lot of times the prioritizations on mandatory accessibility issues becomes visual in nature. Like there's this visual hierarchy of visuality when we see disability. So I think that is something we need to take account, that when we are talking about mandatory guidelines, we are not losing out on invisible or hidden disabilities. Yeah, so I just wanted to make that point, and we'll be happy to volunteer across sectors or working on how hidden disabilities and invisible disabilities can be included. And we'll be happy to write to you as well.
Ma'am, you are mute.
That was the reason why I was telling Bhumika that, if you want to be doing it, ensuring that no disability gets left out, then if you work from sector to sector, then you can weave everybody in. But if you work from disability to disability, it doesn't operate like that. Then the less visible ones get invisibilized all over again. That's what lands up happening. And Arti, please write. And that as far as the consultation with grassroots organizations is concerned, I would sort of appeal to whichever colleagues who have those connections and want to sort of like organize it. We would be happy to sort of chip in and do whatever is required. I'm very clear about that we all have our own strengths and limitations. We can't CDS cannot claim to be having those connections, but we are happy to feed into those or to do whatever is required of us to do kind of things. That's the only assurance I can give. Yeah, Suman.
Hi, ma'am. Thank you. So very quickly, ma'am, just two things that I wanted to share. I think that bigger circle, which you said sector-wise, I think that in my view works well. And I was just listening to everyone and just mapping it on the X and the Y axis, like the kind of the disabilities and the things required. And I think that will give that one design for all. So, visualizing that what each one may need with respect to whatever it is. So, ma'am, coming to where we can help, I, with my team of students who had worked earlier,
Yes. Thank you
sector-wise,
so
we'll
much.
write it to you, ma'am, that which sector we can take it up. And other than that, ma'am, if we can have the respective disabled people, like a kind of an online consultation also, or a kind of a round table with them, just to get those different perspectives from theirs.
I'm sorry, I
So,
didn't get you.
yeah, ma'am, I was saying like some of the, having a consultation or a discussion with some of the disabled people.
I'm sorry, Suman. That is not the way to go. I'm sorry. I
No,
mean, what is
ma'am,
this
I just
consultation? Because they are an integral
not
part of
not
this process.
consultation, ma'am.
No, I
I
think
think
you
I
got it
missed
wrong.
out the point, ma'am. I'll just come back to my point. I was just saying, ma'am, that in certain cases, after we do it, like having just their viewpoints in some way, either by a
You
Google
are going to
form or
be an
something.
integral part of the whole process, Suman. What are you talking about? People with disabilities are going to drive this
Yes,
process.
yes, ma'am. Yes. Uh, I mean, I coming from the locomotor disability, ma'am,
What
and
I'm saying is that you
seeing,
interact with.
yeah. I get that, ma'am. On the larger note, like I was just a small example that came to my mind was me and my friend and the kind of the difficulties that were there. So I was just saying that if we want more, then we can think of. Otherwise, I was thinking, ma'am, X and the Y axis kind of a thing, that the disabilities and the requirements that they have, coming to where we can, ma'am, in any sector, and in addition to that, anywhere in the terms of law, also that any help is needed, ma'am, I'll be more than happy to do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Suman. Amit.
मैम सबसे पहले तो बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद इस इंसाइटफुल सेशन के लिए एंड मैम माइट बी मैं शायद ये एक्सेसिबिलिटी के एम्बिट में आता है कि नहीं दैट इज आई एम नॉट श्योर तो सॉरी अगर वो नहीं होता है तो आई जस्ट
टेस्ट
वांटेड
करो,
टू नो
पता लग जाएगा।
कि
टेस्ट करना
जैसे
पता लग जाएगा, बोलो में तो
बिल्कुल
पता चलेगा ना क्या है।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल मैम तो आई वाज विलिंग टू नो कि जैसे कई बार जैसे टीयर 2 टीयर 3 सिटीज में जो रूरल एरिया में आते हैं वहां पे अगर जैसे अगर कोई वुमन विद डिसेबिलिटी है उसको अगर एक डिसेबिलिटी सर्टिफिकेट लेने के लिए जाना पड़ता है तो वहां पे जो डॉक्टर्स हैं वो फिजिकल असेसमेंट के लिए जो डिसेबिलिटी को सर्टिफिकेट देने के लिए वहां फीमेल डॉक्टर्स नहीं होते हैं या फिर अगर किसी को ब्रेसेस चाहिए तो कई सारी गवर्नमेंट के जो संस्थान हैं जहां पे उनको आर्टिफिशियल लिम्ब या ब्रेसेस लगाए जा रहे हैं तो वहां पे वुमेन विद डिसेबिलिटी के लिए वो हेल्प के लिए या उस असेसमेंट के लिए वुमेन नहीं होती हैं तो क्या ये इस एम्बिट में आ सकता है और क्या इस पे कुछ हम कर सकते हैं
सोचना पड़ेगा अमित, मेरे को एकदम से नहीं कोई आपके लिए जवाब सूझ रहा, लेकिन आई थिंक उसको हम फ्लैग कर सकते हैं, स्पेशली सर्विसेज में इसको फ्लैग कर सकते हैं।
आशा हंसी ने भी लिखा है कि जेंडर पर्सपेक्टिव भी इन सब चीजों में देखना चाहिए, उसमें लिखा है, सो जेंडर पर्सपेक्टिव विल डेफिनेटली बी देयर, रूरल अर्बन वेयर एवर वी मे बी, नो
हम जब नॉन निगोशिएबल में बात करेंगे, मैंडेटरी जो बात करेंगे उसमें सेफ्टी ये बात तो आना ही पड़ेगा, and that will come, and I as a woman with disability working in the sector that my ये will be that कि वो उसमें आए
आपका जेंडर
जहाँ हम
डिमेंशन को क्या
currently
सर्विस कैसे प्रोवाइड करते हो?
कैसे हम सर्विस में उसको इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं, वो that will come under services only, कि how
Yeah.
to ensure that.
Yeah, it will be part of that.
Manaja.
Thank you.
Good evening, dear ma'am. Thank you for making me a part of this democratic project. I think, ma'am, once the SAT committee talks to the government and understand at what stage the government is exactly in this business of accessibility, we can understand the sectors, like all the 6 sectors in which the government is involved.
No, Manager, I'm sorry. We are going to talk with the government, but we are going to be telling the government.
Yes, ma'am.
That is the way we want to proceed.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So my thinking was just if we understand from where the government, I mean,
I'm
what
making another
stage the
discussion
government
of who should be the one who's to call the shots. I
Yes,
think at least my training in the CRPD and all the work with people with disabilities has been,
Yes, ma'am.
the shots have to be called by the sector, not by the government.
Yes, ma'am. So my understanding is just to where the government exactly is. There, from there we can take forward maybe.
No.
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 Yes. Okay.
No, you have, I think, I mean, though you're a student of mine, the fact remains is you have a more conciliatory outlook. I have a more, what should I say?
Okay, fine, ma'am.
We just
I'm
leave it at that.
with you.
Trust again?
Yes.
Or
Thanks, ma'am.
or Asha Bhumika Trust has spoken once. Let me go to Shamla first. Hi, Shamla. So nice to see you there.
Hi, Amita. Lovely to hear you and lovely to be part of this group. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think there's a lot that has been spoken, so I won't repeat all that. And I agree with all the 6 categories that you have outlined. I think they're the major categories. And the detailing, I suppose what you've been saying is will come out in the next stage and not at this stage. What I would like to offer from my side is to be part of the detailing part, because I see there's a lot of
Thank you
confusion.
so much. Thank you so much.
I hear a lot of confusion about which goes where, and there are many cross-cutting areas that would probably come into the detailing. For whatever I can contribute, I can be part of contributing to that. That's one thing. And for each of the other areas, 6 areas, let me get back to our teams to say who would be able to take on which particular area. Because I think the cross-disability and cross-domain work that we've been doing for so many years, we would like to bring in experience in all those areas. While I recognize and appreciate that this exercise is very, very critical and important, I would also like to float the other exercise that the sector must focus on to do the advocacy. Can the disability sector come together to write not just to MSJ, but to each of the ministries to set up a committee to look into the accessibility issues? Because ultimately, the court order is also for the government to look into it and what needs to be done to be making this a reality. While this exercise where we are part of it is going to strengthen what they need to do and probably feed in and give the focus as to what they need to do, they also need to start something on their own. We can't just let them sit and get it all ready-made, because the implementation then falls back on each of the ministries. If they don't work towards it, they're not going to implement it. So can we at least start writing to them?
See, I have only this one. I understand where you're coming from, Shamla, but I have this one, one of the reasons why accessibility has run into the kind of difficulties it's run into has also to do with the fact of that you have just farmed out overmuch. The kind of, farming out which has happened, I don't think that full thought has gone into it. And that's very demonstrated by the kind of guidelines which have come from the other ministries. So I somewhere feel that if it's only if you have your basic, your basic portfolio sorted out, that you need to go to the next stage. If you go to the next stage, you're going to cause for more confusion. So I would somewhere think at this point of time, the Disability Department of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, first level conversation in detail needs to happen with them.
Sure. I agree that
Then
MSG
you go
should
to the
be
next
doing
stage,
that.
because
But
what's
other
happened is,
departments and other ministries have in their own way have initiated looking
because
into
these
it.
guys gave it to them, no. It was done by the Ministry of Social Justice. It didn't just happen. They didn't come
that
to
doesn't absolve them from their responsibility.
No, but the thing is, no, it's no, you don't.
No, after once it is accepted, it will become mandatory as per the court order.
Shamla, I think
Every
we
ministry
can't
will.
have that discussion.
No, I'm
here.
saying take it as a parallel approach.
I get you, but I would want to have a separate conversation with you on the strategy of it. Not possible at this point, but I'll definitely want to have that conversation.
Okay, sure.
All right, Prakash Andhare Saab, you have something left, because we are literally in the last 10 minutes now of the meeting.
No, it's okay, madam. I was only listening.
Okay. All right, Bhumika.
Ma'am, I'm just requesting a small thing, that if you could share these presentations that you are
The
presenting.
presentations will be part. We will be sharing the recording, and the presentations will come as a part of the recording.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. That's it.
Amar.
Yeah. Hi, ma'am. I think, am I audible?
Yeah, you are. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. So my screen is not visible. But anyway, so the thing is, from last 2 days, I'm grappling with this question: what is moral minimum? Because you said that we're going to think through normatively, and I was like wondering what is going to be the moral minimum we are going to decide as being mandatory.
It was a mandatory minimum, not a moral minimum.
No. Like, but the way I put it, like, you said we have to think normatively.
I said mandatory minimum.
Yeah.
Moral minimum, I can never ask for.
Yeah. And I was thinking about what would be the moral minimum, like, because since that thing is going to be a mandatory thing. So on that lines, so with my skills of research and reading and writing, I can be a back-end support in terms of writing and reading and researching skills. I have a good understanding of conducting interviews, FGDs, so I can do that. But I'm also in my final year of my PhD. I'll be submitting by June, so I'm just like bundling up my thesis. So that is one thing which is happening. So I'll be there on that part. And sectors I'm not really sure about, but there are two areas. One is higher education and other is employment. I'll be more interested in working in these areas because my research has been like along those areas.
We will take the employment option because lots of people have already spoken about higher education. So we might need more people in other sectors. Sort of things.
Yeah. And so like I just had a so I could get your point that the verticals which you came up with and then the disability specific groups and all, and as one of the other inspector ma'am said that once the idea is pretty clear, then I'll be in a better position to understand. Okay, fine, I can contribute in this particular part.
Fair enough, Amar. I mean, a doctoral candidate willing to opt, giving us any support would be very, very welcome. And I mean, one would keep in mind that the fact that you have to complete your thesis by June, and we definitely want that thesis completed. But so just write to us, and then let's see where we can rope you in and seek your support. Okay?
Sure.
All right. So I think we have been good people. We're in the last 8 minutes, and I don't have any other hands. Andhare Saab has just decided not to put his hand down. That's fine. I mean, I think he's going to give us this constant reminder ki kaam abhi baki hai. So fair enough. But I think all in all, this has been a very, I was very, very nervous about this meeting, but it's been a very fruitful and a very positive and a constructive meeting, which is what one wanted. There's a lot of work to do, and I'm hoping that lots of you will write to us in helping, and I'm especially thankful to Shamla for offering to help in the detailing, because that's where it's like the devil is, all of the devil is like in the details. So, but the very fact that we have the big picture in place, we can start putting the small pieces too. Thank you very, very much, everyone. Thank you, Renuka. Thank you, Saurav. Thank you for making this. Hopefully we have recording it the correct way also today. And so when we put out the recording, the sign language interpretation will also be there. I mean, I'm learning, at least on an everyday basis, that accessibility is also about getting educated all the time about what all you don't know, and what are the various ways in which you need to fix things. And remember that the world was not made in your image, and that there are lots and lots of ways in which to interact with as much diversity as is around us. And I think this kind of solidarity in diversity, the disability sector is going to provide a model which is needed for the country as such, not just for the sector. Thank you very much, everyone. Really, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Amita Di. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Ma'am.
See you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you.